Let me ask you, does a machine like yourself ever experience fear? You are totally impossible! I will fight these androids face to face, and I will break them with my bare hands! A true Super Saiyan would not have fallen. I have more important things to worry about than that foolish woman and her blasted child!
Hi guys, this is Not a Cat. How are you? Welcome to the channel. And welcome to Vegeta's Humanity Part 4, which has been a long time coming. So first things first, thank you for waiting so patiently. The first 3 videos in this series were such an unexpected high point in my life as a writer that rather than rushing to this part of the story straight away, I wanted to take some time to just let it be. Discovering that my thoughts struck a chord with so many of you left me not just shocked, but honestly honoured. And so, wanting to do that honour justice, I decided to step back for a moment, read some Naruto, and reflect. Big thank you to anyone who supported my Naruto video, by the way, as it was such a meaningful project to me. I have to say though, it's good to be back in the world of Dragon Ball Z, and in the company of our disgraced prince, Vegeta. We've reached the Android Saga now, where the show has a lot of fun with Vegeta's evolving anti-hero role, and his identity as an anti-human, resulting in his humanity being more debatable than ever before despite his progress. In fact, in some ways his positive evolution appears to halt or even go backwards here. As such, some people expected me to skip or even stop at this juncture entirely.
Just get the heck out of here, please!
You coward! We're already there!
No! Turn around!
However, this series is an exercise in empathy, and to truly empathize with someone, we must see not just their redemption, but their inevitable relapses along the way. In other words, to truly do Vegeta's humanity justice, it's important not to omit the ugly parts. And we've looked at plenty of those already, so why stop now? Before we begin, as always, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and do leave a like so that YouTube can circulate this video to more Vegeta fans like yourself, and if you'd like to support me further, you can leave me a tip on Ko-fi. I'll leave a link to that below. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. 3 years have passed since Future Trunks informed our heroes of humanity's impending doom at the hands of Dr. Giro's creations. During this time, Vegeta has put his barbecue days on hold to train with 2 goals in mind: defeating the androids alongside the Z-Fighters and besting Goku, who he has only become more obsessed with as time's gone on. These 2 motives live alongside one another, maintaining that balance of selfish power acquisition and cooperation with our heroes, which makes him so unique. He's been busy in other areas too, as Bulma is now a mother, and we'll look today at how Baby Trunks and Future Trunks act as mirrors through which we can imagine the hero Vegeta has the potential to be if he takes the right path, and what the world requires of him in a social human sense along the way. Naturally, Vegeta is still portrayed as a warrior first and foremost. He is not a family man right now by any stretch of the imagination, which isn't surprising considering that his formative years were spent not under the guidance of 2 loving parents, but the thumb of a terrifying space tyrant. He's been trained not to rock a cradle, but to destroy. Nevertheless, Trunks' existence and the Earthlings' warm acceptance of him acts not just as a warning for Vegeta's future, but as a tangible symbol of hope for his continued integration. We first meet Baby Trunks cuddled in the arms of his mother as the Z-Fighters, bar Vegeta, gather on a Menbo island to await the android's attack. Remember that Goku, who Future Trunks spoke with, and Piccolo, who overheard, are the only people who knew about Trunks' upcoming birth.
I hope you don't think I'm nuts for asking, but what's the deal with the baby, Bulma?
And so we have this humorous little scene which creates a relaxed domestic tone as they discuss the baby.
Is he your son, Yamcha? I'll bet he is.
He's not my kid. Wait until she tells you who the father really is.
Notice how the show continues its displacement of Yamcha here, which Vegeta's presence catalyzed in the last saga. Goku joins in, gives Trunks a playful prod and says he bets Vegeta is the father. Bulma is surprised, but not embarrassed. In fact, she claims she wanted to reveal this to everyone herself as a fun surprise. And surprised they are.
Outrageous! Who would have guessed Bulma and Vegeta?
But the only one who is actually annoyed is Yamcha, and that's for personal reasons. The fact that nobody is morally opposed to Bulma and Vegeta's affair demonstrates nicely that the Z-Fighters no longer view him as outright evil. He remains elusive, of course, as Bulma claims to not know where he is, but Goku is certain he'll show up.
He'll show. He wouldn't miss a fight.
Thus, we're reminded that Goku is quite the ambassador for Vegeta, acknowledging his bloodthirsty warrior side and showing enthusiasm for his contribution. So while he isn't here yet, things are being set up quite nicely for him. Back to Trunks, I love how the group interacts with him in this episode, from Goku's playful greeting to Gohan and Krillin later making him laugh. We cut to Mr. Brief too during this waiting period, who is shown bringing a new toy to Trunks' nursery. It seems that, despite Vegeta's social shortcomings, Bulma's family remain accepting of him, or at least of his contribution to the family. Indeed, upon seeing that the crib is empty, Mr. Brief concludes,
I guess that daughter of mine must be showing him off to the neighbors again.
This hammers home that Vegeta's quote-unquote illegitimate child isn't a source of shame, but rather something to be proud of, and to be shared with the wider community. Vegeta has made the world that bit brighter simply by helping bring another Earthling into being. Even the grumpy Yajirobe is shown interacting sweetly with Trunks a few episodes later.
So you like your Uncle Yajirobe, huh? Well, I like you too. Yes, I do.
This willingness to give in to levity even when under threat is something Vegeta and Piccolo don't have. In Piccolo, this manifests as staying on the outskirts of the group so he can remain vigilant. Being decidedly more advanced in his humanization, Piccolo broods but does so within the group. Vegeta, on the other hand, is still learning how to integrate his old identity with his new life on Earth, and so rejects interactions like this altogether. He is waiting somewhere in the shadows to help when needed, however, as we learn a few episodes later. And he isn't needed yet, practically or narratively. Even when Yajirobe's ship is blasted out of the sky and it's time to spring into action,
You guys, it's the androids up there!
the Z-Fighters confidently do so without Vegeta. Goku takes charge, telling everyone to spread out and report back if they catch any wind of the androids. He also gives Bulma the senzu beans and tells Gohan to check on Yajirobe. Piccolo acts as second in command, being vocal about them having to go down and find the androids on the ground, and giving the final order to descend on the city.
Let's go!
This scene reminds us that in Vegeta's absence, the Z-Fighters slot into their usual power dynamic with ease, with Goku, then Piccolo at the top, and everyone else existing amicably below them. It's a hierarchy which allows the Z-Fighters to minimize infighting, maximize organization, and remove the need for bravado. Opening this saga with a demonstration of this peaceful status quo subtly suggests that the limelight Vegeta's enjoyed regularly up until now may have to shift focus to a wider group dynamic centered around Goku, the story's principal protagonist. That is, unless something were to happen to him, but more on that later. Not long after the Z-Fighters begin their search, androids 19 and 20 appear and start terrorizing the city. Yamcha is easily ambushed, then has to be flown to safety by Krillin. This leaves Goku, Tien, and Piccolo. I like the mocking comment Piccolo makes here as they face off.
So these are the big bad androids. Kind of funny looking if you ask me.
Reminding us that Vegeta's acerbic tone isn't needed here yet, as Piccolo can provide that aspect of the group dynamic himself. Furthermore, Piccolo provides a realistic counterbalance to his teammates' enthusiasm later on once the fight has begun, which is another role he usually shares with Vegeta.
Goku's got it in the bag. Maybe.
A growing need for Vegeta will soon become apparent, however, as these androids are no ordinary enemies. Not only can they wreak destruction very, very quickly, prompting Goku to persuade them to fight somewhere far away from any remaining civilians, but Yamcha has learned that they can leech energy from their opponents. This poses a risk for Goku in particular, who Trunks predicted will start suffering from a heart virus around this time. Indeed, even before the fight can begin, we're shown Goku clutching his heart. Things aren't hopeless enough for Vegeta's appearance to feel earned yet, though, as the group are doing pretty great at rallying together.
I've got to help my friends! Wait up, guys, I'm coming!
And Piccolo remains a staunch tactical observer.
Why did he pick this spot?
We learn in this episode that Goku has been tracked by Dr. Gero since Goku's defeat of the Red Ribbon Army years ago. Over the years, Gero has studied Goku from afar using this cute ladybug tracking device to create army-destroying technology which can mimic Goku's strength, but also destroy him. And even taking all of this into account, we have faith that he can win, as Gero's analysis of Goku stopped at Namek. Goku busts out the transformation immediately, the key burst of which alerts the others to his whereabouts. He then tells Piccolo and Tien to stay out of the fight, saying,
You stay out of this! It looks like they only want me, and that's exactly who they'll get!
I love his brash, self-assured tone here. He is riding high on Saiyan pride, as exemplified in his continued confidence as he charges now towards his opponent.
Alright, have it your way, but I wouldn't bank on it if I were you!
Thus, the confidence and pride Vegeta usually brings to the table are handled by Goku, so the narrative continues to hold off on his reveal. Goku fares well at the start of this battle with 19. However, Piccolo and Gohan can see that there's something wrong.
His attacks aren't even hurting the android. He's going to need our help, you guys!
Not long after this worry comes to light, Goku fires a battle-finishing ki wave at 19, who simply catches it and absorbs it. Goku is then shown to be panting hard despite not having fought for very long, by his standards anyway. And here, a glimmer of an answer to that question, when and why will Vegeta be needed, presents itself. We need another strong fighter. One who plays by different rules, perhaps, than the balanced, amicable team who have failed to secure a victory so far. This should be apparent now even to viewers morally opposed to Vegeta. And the final nail in the coffin, as it were, is the jarring sight of Goku having to halt halfway through an attempt at a Kamehameha. Our beloved hero's signature move, the device which has provided hope and spectacle time and time again, appears to be broken. Gohan understandably wants to go home and grab the heart medicine, but Goku says no, despite claiming to feel like he's dying. He does accept a senzu bean from Krillin, but it doesn't help him win, and he's left crawling on the ground. Then, after a further beating, he loses his Super Saiyan form entirely, solidifying his defeat. Piccolo and co try to intervene as 19 tortures Goku by stepping on his wrist, but are stopped by 20, who shoots 2 lasers through Piccolo's chest. And here, just when all hope seems lost, Vegeta arrives.
Nobody kills Kakarot while I'm around. Destiny has reserved that pleasure for me.
Even the reveal itself is something the show kind of pauses to take its time over, solidifying that Vegeta has arrived not just as an extra, but as a main cast member. We have his fist-punching Android 19 out of the way, reaction shots of the others, then a panning shot which sweeps up past his signature boots and his clenched fists, and finally landing on his smug face. This is consistent with how we've seen him aestheticized before, especially on Namek. In emphasizing his muscular legs and pristine battle gear before we even see his face, the show presents him as an efficient, battle-ready soldier. In other words, he is someone our heroes can rely on not to falter on the battlefield, and not to give in to worry even when their leader is defeated. And of course, this hero's entrance is given even further gravitas by being undercut with his usual sardonic humor.
Nobody kills Kakarot while I'm around.
Holding off for 3.5 episodes before reintroducing our anti-hero prince is such an exceptionally clever narrative move. He could have been there from the start, moseying around with the others without a distinct purpose. But instead, we have him swooping in like a true shonen hero, and by surprise, no less, at the precise moment he becomes needed. Thus, his presence in the group feels impactful and necessary rather than incidental. Anyway, let's not forget this isn't just a character reveal, but an outfit reveal too. Vegeta returns here in a suit which closely resembles the outfit he ended the Namek saga in, only with 2 alterations. The suit is a lighter, showier shade of blue, and the shoulder protection has been significantly reduced. It's not the heavy protective gear he wore as a Frieza Force soldier, nor the Earthling garb he was forced into in the Trunks saga. It's something clean and understated which emphasizes his physique and maximizes movement. Contrasting as always with the traditional wear worn by characters like Goku and Krillin, this is the gear of an agile fighter who is proud of the work he's been putting in and wants to show it off. These new clothes might seem like a small detail, but I did want to touch upon it as I believe it's a nice representation of his continued self-refinement or self-actualization. Specifically, he's communicating to the world that he is primed to fight and needs less protection than ever in order to do so, as he is stronger than ever. Almost to the extent of presenting himself as a weapon rather than a person. We will see this mindset be both an asset and a danger as the arc progresses. Back to the scene, Piccolo shoots up from where he was lying and claims that Vegeta actually appeared a few moments before he seemed to, interfering in Piccolo's attempted moment of heroism.
I admit the move I made wasn't very smart, but I wanted to help Goku out. And then boom, Vegeta got in my way.
This little detail successfully adds to Vegeta's portrayal as a disruptor. He didn't just join the battle, he barged in. Vegeta, of course, doesn't bother acknowledging this and immediately addresses Goku, standing over him, might I add, as Goku once stood over Vegeta.
You're pitiful, Kakarot. You were warned about the heart virus. You should have known that turning into a Super Saiyan could only make it worse.
He makes a very good point here about the virus, to be honest, and it's a point that manga Vegeta makes too. However, his usual tendency for lording over Goku at every opportunity
Really, Kakarot, you're far too forgiving to be a great warrior.
reminds us that he has less mercy to offer than Goku granted Vegeta when he was the one lying defeated. He tells Goku he'll finish the androids, but after that, Goku's next. And with that, he kicks Goku over to Piccolo, who catches him like a beanbag. This is, for better or for worse, the Vegeta we know and love. While the others hesitate to second-guess Goku,
Your dad is still in command, and we can't intervene until he says so.
Vegeta doesn't mind being rude and disrupting the hierarchy. This gives him special narrative permission to be honest about certain practicalities, like the heart virus, that the others don't think to be pushy about. So he'll help, but on his own terms. And he is helpful, not only in arriving at the right moment, but in keeping the heart virus at the center of the conversation, which it should have been all along, to be honest.
One of you needs to take Kakarot home right now and give him the antidote. He's running out of time.
Yamcha flies away with Goku to get the antidote, leaving Vegeta to finish what they started. Before Vegeta's Super Saiyan reveal though, we cut back to Bulma, Trunks, and Yajirobe, reminding us of Vegeta's new and incongruous domestic connection to Earth.
I had no idea you were so good with kids, Yajirobe.
With not much else to do while the android altercation goes on, Bulma suggests that the three of them go take a look. And the way that she frames this
Now let's go see Daddy.
What?
informs us that her attitude towards Vegeta is as relaxed as ever. She even doubles down and tells the nervous Yajirobe not to worry, as Vegeta wouldn't let anything happen to his little boy. That particular comment feels very sad upon rewatches, as Vegeta's lack of care for baby Trunks' safety soon becomes apparent. Nevertheless, Bulma maintains a playful attitude around the subject of Vegeta and also appears as a good match for him. She's being pretty irresponsible here, flying a baby into a battlefield, which she excuses as a passion for adventure. And I like that the show keeps reminding us of this aspect of Bulma's personality, an impulsiveness so ego-driven that it veers into reckless impetuousness. Moreover, she doesn't mind being rude and pushy with Yajirobe here in order to get what she wants,
Come on and get in!
and yanks off her friend's scarf to use as a nappy without asking. This recklessness and shirking of social niceties do recall Vegeta's personality to a notable degree, which I find really interesting. Back to the battlefield, Android 20 takes a moment to relish the upcoming violence.
Yes, this is going to be very enjoyable.
He's a pretty menacing guy, and we're shown Piccolo, Gohan, Krillin, and Tien tensing up with fear in this group shot, making the lack of fear in the next shot of Vegeta all the more impressive. Once again, notice how little of his body his armor actually covers. Boasting an ego more solid than ever before, he sees no need to protect himself physically, and this is evident in his body language too. His arms are folded rather than readied in a fighting stance, and his legs are straight rather than poised to spring into action. All of this comes together to paint a picture of a man who is a little robotic, but nonetheless knows he is the hero the situation requires. Goku's absence has truly left a void which only someone as bold as Vegeta can fill. Vegeta doesn't actually unfold his arms until several seconds after 19 holds out his arm to attack. He then claims that even if the ki blasts he fires will simply be absorbed, he can win using physical attacks only.
If I can't blast you away, I'll have to pound you into a pulp, that's all.
He continues to ride high on hubris, making fun of Dr. Gero and the androids for not knowing anything of his and Goku's power boosts on Namek. He specifically chides 19 for being shocked at seeing Goku transform, which is a nice example of Vegeta's slowly growing willingness to include Goku as a source of Saiyan pride out with himself. Then he hits his opponent with one of my favorite lines.
Let me ask you, does a machine like yourself ever experience fear?
So utterly iconic. I love it. This is followed up with an extreme close-up of the bulging veins in Vegeta's temple, then his fist, then his gritted teeth, and finally his hair. And I think when I first saw this close-up on his hair, the telltale sign that Vegeta has finally achieved Super Saiyan status, I squealed a little bit. And the show wants us to be excited for Vegeta here. As with Goku's transformation on Namek, we see him altering the environment around them with his sheer power. The ground buckles under his feet and the clouds start to race overhead. From his interruption of Piccolo and rough treatment of Goku to this decidedly violent transformation, Vegeta's re-entry to the group has been one of disruption and upheaval.
And then boom, Vegeta got in my way.
That is an eternal aspect of his role, and it works because we love anti-heroes for their ability to destroy and subvert. A formula is less likely to grow stale, after all, if you have a few characters around who strive to overturn it. Not to mention, this all just looks very cool. The show spends over half a minute on Vegeta's transformation, rendering it highly climactic, and confirming that despite his suspected decentering, Vegeta is still very much as relevant as before. I particularly like how the sequence of close-ups begins with expected Vegeta imagery, gritted teeth and battle gear, making it especially exciting when we see his hair transform from black to blonde. Vegeta continues powering up for a further 17 seconds or so after transforming, causing even the trusting Gohan to wonder,
He is on our side, isn't he?
Krillin's reaction is the one that catches my attention, however. He confesses here to having thought that in order to be a Super Saiyan, one had to be quote-unquote like Goku. And this statement captures an interesting conundrum at the center of Dragon Ball Z's power acquisition theme thus far. Is conventionally recognized goodness the thing that makes a powerful hero in this world? Goku works hard and trains a lot, yes, but the show has suggested time and time again that it's his command over his heart and mind, his goodness, that elevates his power so exponentially. We might mistakenly think then that becoming a Super Saiyan is some kind of reward for being good. However, Vegeta's success tells us that there is more than one path to greatness. Confirming that the show knows it's overhauling paradigms for some viewers here, we even get this line from Krillin.
Goku's so calm and detached and pure-hearted, but obviously those aren't considered prerequisites.
Thus, we are implicitly and explicitly informed that the very relationship between power and moral superiority is being shaken up by Vegeta in a fascinating way. The Super Saiyan transformation is not, after all, Goku's prize for hard work and purity. It's hard work and something else. Something which stands as worthy and even virtuous in its own way. Vegeta's path to this something else has differed to Goku's in several ways, which he finds validation in, claiming proudly,
There's more than one way to reach the goal. Yes, to each his own.
He then goes on to explain, as the show continues to grant Vegeta central protagonist-worthy screen time, that his motivation differs from Goku's as he simply wanted to be the best.
To be the greatest Saiyan alive, as I always had been.
Notice the paradox there? Vegeta works for something he believes is already his, And we'll see him have to confront this contradiction at the end of the arc, so keep it in mind. We then get a flashback to him training where Vegeta discusses how Goku disrupted his paradigms of power and birthright. It's a fairly long montage which recaps things for viewers who aren't familiar with the previous arcs, and provokes our sympathy for Vegeta as the show's psychological focal point. Indeed, voiceover Vegeta talks of feeling like he was losing his mind, and that his fury alone kept him alive. Then he recounts how he finally became a Super Saiyan due to facing his mortality while training alone on an alien planet during a meteor storm. Notice how his gloves are all torn here, which only tends to happen when Vegeta is on his knees, as his speech comes to a climax.
Then something just snapped. Something inside of me. I didn't care anymore. I didn't care about being better than Kakarot. I didn't care about being a Super Saiyan. I didn't care if I lived. I didn't care about anything. And then it happened.
Both his gloves and his royal persona are broken in this flashback, but restored in the present. He has made enough progress to break through before sort of regressing again now that he's got what he wanted. This is probably one of the reasons we get the feeling here that his emotional evolution isn't moving the way that it should be. And sure enough, right after confessing to letting go of his pride, he circles back to hubris in another classic Vegeta moment.
The sleeper has awakened. I am the Prince of all Saiyans once again.
Figurative lines like "the sleeper has awakened" display Vegeta's love of theatrics perfectly. He sees himself as a symbol of almost mythic proportions and wants others to see him that way too. He's not just peacocking verbally though, but also physically. As he utters these last two phrases, he looks up from the fist he's clenched before his face and slowly uncurls his fingers while keeping his hand raised. It's a great example of his electrifying stage presence, which he wields to frighten his enemies, impress his allies, and keep us, the audience, excited for what he might do next. Notice also how he's looking almost directly into the camera while taking up the entire frame in this tight close-up, like he's demanding to be seen. This is a very interesting speech all in all, as yes, he uses hubristic language, and yes, on a surface level, Vegeta is claiming to be sort of antithetical to Goku, but it actually highlights the similarities in their paths to power. While Vegeta's will to surpass Goku and become the greatest brought him to the precipice of Super Saiyan status, it was a letting go of desire for control which gave him that final push. This is a clever piece of character writing on the anime's behalf, as Goku also let go of something in order to ascend. Enraged by Krillin's death, he let go of his famously steady composure and became wrathful. Very interesting indeed. On to the fight now. Android 19 has a good go at it, but even after being attacked with ferocious laser beams, Vegeta stands firm, emerging spotless from the dust cloud in true hero fashion. I love how shiny he looks here, in a way that actually reminds me of Superman. The highlights on his face, the bright Super Saiyan color scheme, and the artificial pulsing sound effect come together to create the impression that we're watching not a man, but a machine. Or at least, that's what he wants us to think. Holding firmly to his identity as prince and representative of his race, Vegeta doesn't fight one-on-one exactly, he performs, focusing both on the battle itself and making sure he puts on a good show for anyone watching. The way he handles the android's first punch after the laser beams is a perfect example of this. Rather than blocking or dodging, he stands perfectly still and takes the hit straight on. Repressing his more quote-unquote human side, he refuses to flinch, but relaxes his body just enough to lean his neck back, absorbing the impact. It's calculated, it's neat, and it's impressive. He then dodges a series of punches before allowing another one to land. This shot of his shaking legs and the blood which appears at the corner of his mouth, however, remind us that his performance only tells half of the story. Nevertheless, his bravado is successful in intimidating Android 19, who he pontificates at and insults.
Just as I thought, you're nothing. Do you really think you have a chance against a Super Saiyan like me?
His tone in this episode is very reminiscent of how he bigged himself up on Namek, actually. Only this time, it feels more earned because he is actually a Super Saiyan now, rather than just saying he is. Before recommencing the fight, Vegeta insults 19 some more.
Fresh out of the factory with no warranty, and already broken.
And we get this striking close-up of his face, darkened now with dramatic low-key lighting, where he's looking directly at us. This is followed with a quick shot of his oversized calves, which again have this shiny, robotic feel which contrasts with Goku's flowy, more organic karate-gi. He sends 19 flying with 3 powerful hits, impressing not just Gohan and Krillin, but also Tien, who is arguably Vegeta's biggest critic.
Man, Vegeta!
Vegeta insults 19 some more, then beats him up some more, and it really does feel like he's playing with him at this point, pausing to make remarks, and opting for gymnastics rather than finishing moves. While I'm sure this is partially due to the fact that he cannot use ki-based attacks, it's also indicative of that tendency to unnecessarily protract battles as we've observed in his fight with Ginyu. And when he lets his guard down while standing over his collapsed opponent, giving him an opportunity to grab Vegeta by the wrists, it looks like that hubristic habit might actually be his downfall.
I have you now, and soon I will have all of your energy.
Indeed, this reaction shot of Krillin and Gohan
Oh no!
encourages our concern for him, despite the fact that he's kind of brought this entrapment on himself.
I will never let you go.
Vegeta seizes control with ease, however, pulling off this move where he pushes his feet against 19's face as he continues to make fun of him.
You're very true to your word, but never can be a long time, android!
I like when Vegeta uses his more compact frame to his advantage like this. He can't change his height, and will never have the traditional masculine hero build of someone like Goku or Tien. But that doesn't matter. He's optimized his body and fortified his mind in a way which has rendered him virtually unstoppable regardless.
Yes, that's the spirit, android! Never say die!
And sure enough, it isn't long before 19's mechanical arms simply snap in two under the pressure. Everyone is gobsmacked at this display of power, Piccolo included. Continuing to display his unique brand of fighting prowess, Vegeta uses one of 19's severed hands to adjust his own glove. As fun as this is to watch, this is where Vegeta's more sadistic and therefore less heroic side comes to the surface as he delights in 19's growing panic.
What's the matter? You're the one who started this game, and now you don't want to play anymore?
He has achieved the seemingly unachievable. He has provoked fear in an apparently unfeeling machine.
So I guess it's true after all. Androids do experience fear.
A sadistic goal if ever I heard one. He then follows up this teasing with a more revealing comment.
You were enjoying yourself before, when you were sucking the life out of Kakarot.
Vegeta has always gloated and will always gloat. His princely origins and love for showboating are legitimate parts of him. However, here he brings up Goku as someone 19 should be punished for trying to kill. Goku has become, in spite of it all, his mentionable ally whose honor Vegeta will defend, in his own way. Again, Vegeta's body itself is part of the spectacle of power here. As the terrified 19 scrambles away, he is framed by Vegeta's legs. The forced perspective emphasizes that physical optimization we mentioned before, and how powerful Vegeta feels as a result really well. Knowing he's met his match, 19 flees and Vegeta flies in the air and holds out one hand to charge a finishing blast.
A little going away present for you!
Notice how his glove is the focal point again, displaying his clean, pristine killing machine persona. Having watched Goku be carried away by Yamcha and made an impression on everyone present, Vegeta has successfully marked his territory, as it were, and so he stops playing with his prey and finishes off Android 19 with a bang that Bulma and Yajirobe spot from Bulma's ship. This is the first time we see the Big Bang attack from Vegeta, and it's impressive. It completely decimates its target and leaves a mushroom cloud in its wake. We'll see this same attack again, actually, when Vegeta's newly restored pride takes a huge knock later on. And I do think that witnessing his success here, how his usual tricks and new power seem to be working harmoniously for him, is important in rendering his later defeat as crushing as possible. Indeed, in order to be shocked into learning something, Vegeta must get comfortable first. This includes the narrative creating a sense that he doesn't have to change in order to be useful to the Z-Fighters. Once 19's been dealt with, we're given a brilliant example of how Vegeta's pride makes him a unique tactical asset to the team. Back on the ground, Vegeta drops his transformation before Android 20 and invites him to attack.
Now's your chance to beat me. A vicious attack now could be sufficient. How can he be so confident? What is he hiding?
20 marvels at his confidence and stares him down as if searching for a crack in his armor. But there's no weakness to be found. Vegeta just stares right back at him and smiles. Then we have this unusual shot showing Vegeta at a 90-degree angle, then panning to his prey. This acts as a fun visual reminder of how Vegeta's arrival has turned everything sideways, from the group hierarchy to the outcome of the battle with 19.
Let me ask you this. What makes you think that you're going to do any better than him? You're an android too. I bet your head rolls just as well as his does.
Vegeta has proved such a surprise element, in fact, and seems so confident that 20 just runs away. Before he leaves, he does try to big himself up, claiming to be more advanced than Android 19, but Vegeta simply replies,
"You're bluffing, friend. Let's see what you've got."
And just like that, the psychological battle is won. Vegeta has tricked Android 19 and us, the audience, into believing Vegeta's performance, even though, as Piccolo soon points out, he was the one bluffing the most. Indeed, as soon as Android 20 leaves, Vegeta demands a Senzu Bean. As a side note, the way he asks,
"Hey, Baldy, hurry! Throw me one of those beans!"
always gives me a chuckle, as there are actually 3 Baldies here. On Piccolo's advice, Krillin gives Vegeta the bean. Then Vegeta says,
"I appreciate the assistance, but you're not needed here anymore. You should go home where it's safe. You'll only get in my way."
Again, he's being a jerk, to use Krillin's terminology, while also trying to do them a favor. He's actively considering their safety before heading off for his prideful victory. That is significant. Maybe cultivating our humanity isn't about being nice, but considering others while we go after what we want as individuals. Just food for thought. As Vegeta flies off, Piccolo makes some key comments which contribute to that sense of there being a valid place for Vegeta in the group, presenting him as a hero and warrior worthy of respect.
Man, that guy is the biggest jerk!
I have to agree with you, but he's a genius when it comes to fighting. Vegeta was weakened by the other android. He was vulnerable, so he bluffed and acted like he was eager to fight the next one. That other android could have defeated Vegeta if he would have called the bluff and attacked, but Vegeta was too convincing.
He then adds that Vegeta is impossible to beat psychologically, as he thinks of every possible advantage and now seems to be possibly even stronger than Goku.
It's radical, just amazing.
Wow!
Clearly, their collaboration with him is beneficial for all, despite personality clashes. Piccolo's speech has a rallying effect on the others, who unanimously decide not to abandon Vegeta.
Man, oh man!
Whoa!
I say we go find them! Vegeta may be stronger than us, but that doesn't make him my boss.
Yeah, mine either!
We have just as much at stake. We can't just take off right now. There's no way!
They try to save face by framing this as not wanting to follow Vegeta's orders, but it's clear that they're really going to back him up. In fact, Piccolo explicitly confirms this in saying,
"Agreed. He might need our help."
Vegeta's performance in this fight, and Piccolo's observations about him after, excellently portray that idea that Vegeta might not have to become any nicer exactly in order to succeed in his continued evolution. His arrogance helps render him the kind of warrior they would willingly follow into battle, even if he tells them not to. There's complex hierarchical stuff going on here. Vegeta is the strongest and most in charge of the situation, and they're electing to back him up. However, Piccolo remains as second in command, with his orders nevertheless holding more weight than Vegeta's.
He might need our help. But no jumping in unless I say. I need to get you guys back to Goku in one piece.
This is not a stable situation, of course, and we'll later see how Vegeta's disruption of the status quo can and will lead to recklessness. When we cut back to Vegeta, he's still searching for Android 20 and stands at the edge of a rocky outcrop urging him to show himself.
If you androids experience fear, you must feel shame too. So stop running away and fight. An android that's scared to die. What a low-rate pile of junk.
This is the third time Vegeta has mentioned this idea of machines feeling fear, and I theorize that this has something to do with his own identity. Vegeta likes to pose himself as a kind of anti-human, refusing to flinch as an Earthling would, electing not to show up to occasions that Earthlings value, and anchoring his pride in his stoicism. And yet, he does feel fear, sadness, nervousness, terror, and a whole host of other human emotions, including impatience, in fact, as he quickly gives up on using words and resorts to launching a huge ki blast to the ground. This was probably his plan from the get-go, and the reason he told the Z-Fighters to flee to a safe place. But before it can land, 20 runs over to catch it, absorbing all of the energy. This is a classic Vegeta mistake. Too impatient to play the long game that the situation required, he's wasted his energy and given his opponent the advantage in one fell swoop. Crucially though, having matured somewhat over the course of the last few years, he makes this comment.
I just had to go and give him all of that energy. Darn, how could I? A mistake like that is inexcusable.
This line conveys a self-awareness which was not so apparent before. Vegeta no longer thinks of himself as a radically perfect fighter, but as someone who can make mistakes, and check in with himself about said mistakes. More man than machine, after all. Moreover, when Android 20 opts to attack Piccolo, bringing more players into the fray, we see how Vegeta has also evolved in terms of other quote-unquote human skills like negotiation and teamwork. After being saved by Gohan and munching a sensu bean, Piccolo flies over to Vegeta and 20 to offer to take the android down himself.
Stay out of this one, Vegeta. I owe him. He's mine.
Piccolo, like Vegeta, is partial to revenge, and says he deserves a shot, but if 20 gets past him, Vegeta can take over.
Then he's all yours. How does that grab you?
Vegeta responds with a sensible point about how letting Piccolo fight first might entail 20 becoming even more powerful by the time it's his turn. Nevertheless, he gives Piccolo his wish.
So just keep that in mind while you're having your little fun. Got it? Yeah, I got it. I'll make sure that doesn't happen again.
While neither of these former villains have a naturally amiable tone about them, this is a surprisingly positive bit of communication between them. True to his word, Piccolo launches 20 into the rocks before he can make a move, provoking an actual smile from Vegeta, and a little chuckle too. This is another nice glimmer of team spirit from him. Not only has he stepped down to let Piccolo have some glory, but he's celebrating his allies' success, like Gohan and the others do,
Man, haha!
in his own muted way. There's also the moment where he makes Android 20 aware of Piccolo's whereabouts at the last second, stalling 20 and rendering the hit Piccolo lands on his head all the more satisfying. Notice how, without saying anything, he's enjoying a light taste of the teamwork he claimed to have no interest in. In fact, after this, we see him smiling over his shoulder at Piccolo, pleased that the fight is going well for him. All in all, we get the impression that Vegeta trusts Piccolo as a fighter, which makes sense as he witnessed some impressive stuff from him back on Namek. And if we think back to their first interaction on Namek, the atmosphere of ill will and mistrust...
I can't believe these fools wasted their wishes bringing you back to life. Do me a favor. Just keep your big mouth shut.
This episode illustrates the social progress that Vegeta has furtively made. Vegeta stays in Super Saiyan form for the duration of this fight, probably so that he can intervene if need be, while showing respect for Piccolo as a teammate. Meanwhile, future Trunks has finally arrived to help. Seeing the devastated city before him, he assumes all is lost.
Man, I can't believe that it's already over. You were my only hope, Goku, but I guess I was destined to handle this alone.
And it speaks volumes about Vegeta's narrative importance, I think, that he proved to be the other hope Trunks wasn't aware he could rely on. The one who stepped in when Goku couldn't carry on. As we'll soon see, of course, whether Vegeta can be relied on as a father is a whole other matter. But for now, Trunks can breathe a sigh of relief, as he senses some big power levels nearby and ascertains that the fight is still ongoing. Speaking of which, Piccolo holds his own extremely well against Android 20, prompting vocal support from Krillin and Gohan,
He's the best!
And another little chuckle from Vegeta. As Piccolo stands over his struggling opponent, we cut to Goku and Chi-Chi's house where Goku is shown to be struggling horribly with the virus as the antidote has yet to take effect. This sidelining of Goku to display Vegeta and Piccolo's fighting ability and tactical collaboration further pulls our prince into main protagonist territory. While Goku may be needed later on at some point, they're doing just fine without him. It's really quite subversive and cool that the two characters holding the fort most effectively were once the enemy themselves. As the battle progresses, the show acknowledges this too. Holding 20's forearm in his hand, Piccolo says with a satisfied smile,
"You just can't get enough, can you?"
Considering that Piccolo doesn't smile much at all, this seems like a simple nod to his sadistic side. However, he follows up this comment with a moral lesson.
"I used to be like you. One day you'll learn that the more you hurt others, the harder your life becomes."
Sounds like advice our prince could do with receiving too, if you ask me. It's clear that Piccolo is deriving pleasure from the violence here, especially when he chops off 20's arm and makes a Vegeta-esque quip about it being a waste of technology. What's important though is that he takes that bloodlust and combines it with his now more advanced, more humanized moral framework.
"It's simple. Your desire to kill is killing you."
Which he's cultivated thanks to the Z-Fighters. The winner essentially established, the Z-Fighters celebrate.
Thank goodness for that! Dying is such a bummer.
And Vegeta is so satisfied with the outcome that he actually invites Piccolo to end the fight.
"How about the coup de grace, Piccolo? Or do I have to step in and handle it?"
This particular comment deftly highlights his progression. Rather than relishing the idea of protracting the violence, or indeed being angry at not being able to join in himself, Vegeta is suggesting a mercy killing. Not only that, but he asks in a calm, humorous way that invites Piccolo to decide for himself. If we see successful human behavior as, again, not niceness, but the learned ability to be a functional member of a collective, he's doing rather well. He is no longer a lone warrior solely hell-bent on power and personal gain, but part of a unit, able to negotiate and defer to his peers, whose wins he finds satisfaction in. Just as Vegeta's integration into the group appears to be stabilizing, however,
"How about the coup de grace, Piccolo? Believe me, no problem."
Trunks arrives and shakes things up once more. Upon seeing him, Piccolo shouts, "Trunks is back!" And the penny drops in this rather funny moment.
"Huh? Trunks? How bizarre! He has the same name as my son!"
This is the first shock Vegeta has to deal with. Then on top of that, Trunks drops the bombshell that he has never met androids 19 and 20, so there are more androids in this timeline than he thought.
"What do you mean you haven't seen him before? Isn't he one of the androids you warned us about?"
At this point, everyone collectively panics, including Vegeta.
"No! Nonsense! If that's not the android you warned us about, then who is it?"
And from here on in, we will see his burgeoning humanity struggle under the weight of his instability. The security which our heroes believed Trunks' prediction had provided has been pulled out from under them. And how does someone like Vegeta respond to insecurity? That's right, you guessed it, he veers straight into callous warrior mode. This is bad news for Bulma, who is still approaching in her little ship. As they fly, Yajirobe threatens to throw Trunks out the window if she doesn't turn back, to which she replies,
Really? I don't think Vegeta would like you talking about his son like that.
And this little suggestion of Bulma's faith in Vegeta renders his upcoming move even more disappointing.
Hello!
Shortly after Android 20 reveals that there are 2 more androids back at the lab, deepening our hero's collective panic, he envelops the area in a big purple blast. Caught in the attack, Bulma's ship careens down into the rocks below and breaks apart. This is a morally decisive moment for Vegeta. If he were more advanced in his evolution, he could have pulled off something very human here, swooping in to save his woman and his child and redeeming himself significantly in the process. But instead, too engrossed in trying to locate his opponent,
Blast it!
he doesn't even look in their direction. Guys, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. From a human moral standpoint, this is not good, but let's discuss. And I have a few thoughts. Having lost sight of 20, they're all in danger of being blasted again at any moment, or losing his trail entirely, resulting in even more casualties. Therefore, I can see the practical need for Vegeta's focus here. It's the right military response to 20's attempt to bamboozle them and favors survival of the collective. However, it's painful to see him reject an opportunity for emotional progress so blatantly. Would him choosing Bulma and Trunks here even have felt natural or earned though? I have to say, I don't know. I don't think so. Saving Bulma now when he's on high alert in a war zone would mean his redemption is almost complete. And we have way too much story to go for his development to lose struggle and intrigue just yet. In other words, I do feel like at this point of the story, it would just be out of character. Not to mention, we need to see him completely revert to selfishness for his takedown at the hands of Android 18 to feel completely justified. But yeah, not a good moment for the guy, not good at all. Thankfully, Bulma and baby Trunks are saved by future Trunks, who shoots an accusatory glare in Vegeta's direction. I like that the show lingers on Trunks' reaction here, acknowledging the gravity of the mistake Vegeta has just made. This is one of those key moments where Trunks' more advanced humanity makes Vegeta's immaturity even more blatant. Being literally half human, one could argue Trunks has a head start, but even after growing up in a harsh, unforgiving environment, he acts more humanely than his father at every turn. This moment also begs the question, does Vegeta love Bulma? Is he capable of love as we understand it? At this point, I'm honestly not sure. Either way, as heartless as Vegeta is in this scene, the show is careful not to paint Bulma as a victim of his behavior. She is not shown to be angry at him for a second here. She's just grateful to Trunks and recovers almost immediately.
We're okay, guys! This young man saved us!
That's great.
Yeah!
She flew towards the battle wanting excitement after all, and, well, she got it. Furthermore, Bulma, like Vegeta, has a penchant for the dramatic, so if she wanted to make a song and dance about it, she would. She quite wisely doesn't hold him to human lover standards, so maybe we shouldn't either. Furthermore, since the first episode of this saga, the show has clearly portrayed Bulma as a very confident mother.
Time to turn that frown upside down!
She is so relaxed and upbeat and on top of things that we get the impression she doesn't need Vegeta. Not to mention that she has almost unlimited money and resources, including her parents who live with her and happily take on the parenting duties Vegeta shirks. I'm not saying his actions are excusable, far from it, just that we can feel comfortable as an audience being disappointed in Vegeta without feeling pity for Bulma. This is crucial as it keeps him in anti-hero territory rather than bad guy territory. Also, I do think it's worth something that Vegeta is the only Z-fighter who actually tries to immediately follow their escaped and very dangerous opponent, so he gets a couple of points for that, I guess. Nevertheless, it's satisfying when Trunks confronts him here when no one else does.
Why didn't you try to save them, Vegeta?
Trunks' attempt at reasoning with his father makes me rather sad. It's a reminder that he's lived a future in which Vegeta died still rejecting his fatherly responsibilities, opting out of a huge aspect of his redemption. So this is more than an impulsive jab. It's a heartfelt attempt to urge Vegeta to take a different path. And here's the hard truth about redemption, about becoming a quote-unquote better person. After being damaged, and maybe also containing things in one's blueprint which clash with common values, it's not always a journey one wants to be on. Not only do old habits die hard, especially if they remain useful for survival, but new habits take a painstaking amount of practice to pick up. Sometimes we just don't want to do the work. And the work it will take Vegeta to become a family man in any acceptable human fashion isn't something he has space for right now. And as such, he treats Trunks with painful disregard.
Who?
Who? Bulma and your son!
Oh, them. I have more important things to worry about than that foolish woman and her blasted child. Now out of my way!
That foolish woman, meanwhile, shows herself to be not so foolish. Not only does Bulma's great relationship with baby Trunks and future Trunks frame sleeping with Vegeta as a net win for her, but we're soon reminded of the brains she contributes to the group when she realizes before anyone else that Android 19 is actually Dr. Gero.
Yes, he was. He was Dr. Gero. It looks like he's changed a lot since then. And speaking of change...
Vegeta returns to the group while they're discussing this, and Bulma's potential victim role is further disproved through her consistently confident tone with him here.
Dr. Gero? How could you possibly know a thing like that?
I know what I saw, Vegeta! It was a picture of that old guy in one of my dad's science magazines, and underneath it, in big bold letters, it said, Dr. Gero!
Vegeta's body language in the face of her confidence and superior knowledge is incredibly tense. He has also not let go of his Super Saiyan form. And so, as if noticing his discomfort, she placates him.
Well, it was an easy mistake, Vegeta.
What?
With all the modifications Dr. Gero made to himself, it's hard to tell he was ever human. It's really amazing what he's done.
Notice how she empathizes with him, but then quickly veers into something that interests her more. Dr. Gero's technological prowess. Bulma has emotional space to manage Vegeta because she's too invested in loving her baby and her passion for invention to actually care what he thinks about her. In addition, this quick reaction shot of Vegeta while she's talking reminds us that, for all his pontifications, Vegeta does not have the upper hand in their dynamic, as Bulma's own brand of confidence has the capacity to fluster and embarrass him. Notice how he's looking directly at her until the moment she says she understands why he didn't realize 20 was a modified human. The man who prides himself in never flinching or averting his eyes no matter how horrific the foe has to look away when a girl shows him sympathy. Back to the android problem, Trunks tells the Z-Fighters that the two androids he met in the future are more advanced than the ones he met today. They're sleeker, more graceful, and don't need to steal energy as their power source is infinite. Rather than strategizing around this, Vegeta angrily claims that this is impossible, in a recognizable flash of reality denial which deepens that feeling that his redemption may have ground to a halt.
What? That's preposterous!
This is diffused once more by Bulma, who continues to be the only person in the group who can shut him up.
How dare you, Vegeta! Ugh! Every time you stick your geeky little face in front of Trunks, you make him cry!
The show plays this for laughs too, with Gohan and Krillin pulling funny faces while Vegeta freezes with his hands out impotently, not really knowing what to do with himself. It's a quick joke, but it has an important function. It humanizes Vegeta by portraying him as a member of the group whose flaws they can find levity in, even in the face of terrible danger. In conjunction with the shot of him looking away from before, it also frames his fictitious behavior as ignorance and fear of intimacy rather than a reason to dislike him or see him as evil. And it's important that our frustration with him is tempered in little ways like this, as his treatment of adult Trunks will continue to deteriorate despite now knowing he's his son. Anyway, the group finally gets to the matter at hand now, with Vegeta asking Bulma where Gero's lab is and telling the others that they still have the advantage as Gero can't fly. Piccolo then chimes in as joint lead strategist, suggesting that they seek out not Gero but the lab itself to destroy the remaining androids before he gets there. This doesn't satisfy Vegeta, who claims he would never do anything so cowardly. I love how he's presented while he says this, as he stands before Bulma and Trunks, the hope for his future redemption. They're looking at him, but he's blinded to their importance and stares straight on to his goal. Moreover, he looks and sounds in control, but his whole face is darkened in an unusual blanket of shadow. This is appropriate as he's bringing his ego into things again, despite no one having actually called him a coward.
I would never do anything that cowardly.
When what they should be doing is decentering the importance of the individual for the survival of the collective. This mismanagement of priorities, as we know, does not end well for him. After a quick reaction shot of Trunks, we cut back to Vegeta, who now dominates most of the frame as he shouts,
Only one course of action can possibly satisfy me. I will fight these androids face to face, and I'll break them with my bare hands.
These increasingly ominous words and visuals successfully create a feeling of impending doom. The bloodlust, which proved to be an asset up until now, may just land Vegeta in trouble. Indeed, claiming that the androids are not to be underestimated, Trunks passionately advocates for doing things Piccolo's way. Nevertheless, continuing to backtrack on his progress, Vegeta ignores him. Trunks then tries again to get through to him, but makes the mistake of telling Vegeta that they have to wait for Goku.
Listen, don't go! You won't be able to handle the androids by yourself.
Which only fans the fire of Vegeta's insecurities and his resulting hubris. After defensively telling Trunks that he's a lot stronger than Goku could ever dream of being, he tells him to get out of his way and flies onwards towards his goal. And this is where we see Trunks really panic. When Piccolo claims here that Vegeta may actually be stronger than Goku and therefore in with a chance of winning, Trunks replies,
I'm afraid he doesn't have a chance. And I know that. Because in my world, these two androids have already killed Vegeta. Well, I won't let it happen again! I won't let my father die!
That last phrase, I won't let my father die, serves as a poignant reminder of the responsibility Vegeta has created for himself in starting a family. Whether he likes it or not, Trunks has a biological and social need for his father. Therefore, Trunks is not just trying to prevent the destruction of humanity and his father's relapse into bad behavior, he is trying to save himself the anguish of watching his dad perish. This is something Trunks cannot help, just as he cannot help feeling the weight of Vegeta's biting personality more than anyone else. Our parents' problems, if left undealt with, become our own. In other words, Vegeta is not someone Trunks can dismiss as unworthy of his time. He's his dad, whose flaws become something Trunks instinctively wants to break through or solve. Again, Vegeta's humanization isn't just about becoming nicer, it's about seeing him become involved in real human issues. Unfortunately, the issue of parental responsibility is one he's failing to navigate at all. While this makes things very emotionally fraught for Trunks, everyone's approval of him makes us aware that at the very least he's swerved the generational curse Vegeta could have handed to him, and become a socially functional person. Indeed, when Bulma learns in this episode that future Trunks is the same person as the baby in her arms, she's delighted.
Well, Trunks, at least we know you'll grow up to be a handsome young man.
And her approval is further solidified in the next episode too. While Piccolo and co shoot off after Vegeta and Trunks, Bulma and baby Trunks, along with Yajirobe, are flown home by Gohan. And despite the fact that Yajirobe is a man of certain carriage, Gohan doesn't complain about the extra weight. This prompts Bulma to say,
Trunks, when you grow up, I hope you turn out to be just like Gohan.
To which Gohan assures her that grown-up Trunks is pretty cool, and she agrees.
You're right. He is cool, isn't he?
Before we get back to the others, I should mention that while bickering with Yajirobe in this scene, Bulma uses Vegeta's name as a shield again, warning that she'll tell Vegeta he's been bad-mouthing Trunks and her. Now, considering what just happened with her ship, Vegeta's failure to intervene and her lack of surprise at said failure, I doubt Bulma thinks Vegeta actually would care. And if she has hope for his development, her youthful confidence ensures that it's not a desperate hope. Comments that appeared previously to signal faith in Vegeta's fatherly instincts, rendering the ship incident more shocking, have taken on a new meaning. While Bulma can see past Vegeta's warrior mask, she's under no illusions that it'll drop anytime soon, and so is mostly just wielding his name to her advantage. This, along with her clear maternal confidence, makes me feel even less that she's a victim here. Not yet, in this timeline anyway. There is a possible and very sad future for Bulma that Trunks is trying to avoid. Shortly after catching up with the AWOL Vegeta, Trunks recalls a conversation he had with his mother, future Bulma.
Your father, Trunks? Well, he was a man of amazing talents.
This speech of hers here is pivotal in revealing the length and breadth of Vegeta's failure to progress as a person in her timeline.
You wouldn't believe some of the incredible things he could do. But he was a proud man and a sort of hard man to know. And he never showed any affection to anyone, even me. That man never once told me he cared about me.
Then her voice takes on this breathy quality as she adds,
But I could tell.
Reminded of his mother's loneliness, Trunks glares at Vegeta once more. Bulma may not be a victim of Vegeta now, being young and independent and too enamored with her baby to care for romance, but this flashback warns us of what could happen if Vegeta continues down this staunchly stoic warrior path. On top of saving everyone and repairing his relationship with his father, Trunks wants to create a world in which his mother feels actively loved by the man she will never stop caring for. Thus, the narrative burden on Trunks increases even further, feeding our desire to see Vegeta succeed in his redemption. But how does one get through to a man like Vegeta? At long last, Vegeta engages Trunks, saying,
So, you think you can keep up, boy? Let's see!
Challenging him to a race, essentially. And here, as this somewhat grim episode comes to a close, we're given a clue as to how Vegeta may be able to connect with his son after all. He can watch over his power acquisition journey as a Saiyan. Indeed, after inviting Trunks to this battle of speed, Vegeta thinks to himself,
It's still hard for me to believe that he could be a Super Saiyan at his age. But then again, he is my son.
We've talked a few times about Vegeta widening his pride to make room for Goku as a fellow Saiyan, but this line implies an even deeper development. Becoming a parent grants us the chance to live outside of ourselves, in the sense that watching our children grow and succeed brings us happiness as if that very success were happening to us. This is a recognizable, empathetic experience many of us can relate to, and so it's vital for his humanization in our eyes. Considering that power, something Trunks has in spades, is the currency Vegeta values the most, it's one of the reasons Trunks appearing before him as an adult is so important. He may not get anything out of interacting with a baby. In fact, that humorous moment from earlier displayed that he doesn't know how to and is quite bad at it, but a young man is someone he can more tangibly see himself in, and see the potential in too. Thus, the show lets us know that all is not lost in terms of their relationship. It's also significant, I think, that this episode gave us a Bulma who never stopped believing Vegeta cared for her. Bulma may be wishful at times, but she's also smart and perceptive. If she, as the years progressed, continued to see and believe in the human side of Vegeta beneath his persona, who are we to say that she was wrong? So we have a few little reasons to feel hopeful here. However, Vegeta doesn't share his pride for Trunks out loud, and so Trunks is left feeling sidelined. I love this shot of Vegeta reflected in Trunks' eye as he thinks to himself here how stubborn and self-centered he is. All he can see of his father is the back of him as he flies away, a fitting metaphor for the emotional distance Vegeta has imposed on their relationship. The fact that we only see him as a reflection is a further form of distortion, expressively highlighting Trunks' isolation and frustration at not being able to get through to his father. We get voiceovers from both of them here, but they keep their thoughts to themselves, and we have to wonder what it will take for these two characters to ever have a productive conversation together. Indeed, it's not long before they're arguing again.
Would you stop following me, boy? You're getting on my nerves!
Sorry, but there's no way I'm going to let you fight the androids on your own!
And just what are you planning to do to stop me?
Vegeta does eventually accept that Trunks is there to stay though.
Well, if you're going to stay, you can at least help me find Dr. Gero's lab.
You are totally impossible!
At this point, Krillin, Tien, and Piccolo are scouring the area too, having split up to cover more ground. Krillin runs into Gero first. He is attacked, but manages to locate the lab and alert the others. Krillin watches as Gero pushes some buttons at the entrance of his hideout, then enters through a pair of heavy metal doors. He signals the others with a key spike, which also catches the attention of our father and son duo. It's time for the tight unit of Krillin, Piccolo, and Tien to join up with the volatile pairing of Vegeta and Trunks. It's a real make-or-break moment for the team, and sure enough, this is where we see Vegeta's aversion to listening to others become more than just a domestic drawback. His personality and love for violent escalation might just put everyone's lives in danger. While our heroes gather, Dr. Gero frees androids 17 and 18, and it's worth mentioning here that this short interaction cleverly highlights their quote-unquote human qualities, namely their free will and ability to lie, tying in with that man versus machine conundrum Vegeta is so fascinated with. Upon being freed, 17 notices the deactivation button on the remote Gero is holding. After looking at the device rather seriously, he puts on a friendly face and an overly passive voice to trick Gero into thinking he's willing to follow his orders.
Dr. Gero, how are you today?
18 does the same thing.
Hello, Doctor. How have you been?
And we see her exchanging a knowing glance with her fellow android too, implying camaraderie. These machines have revolted against Gero before and are going to do it again.
You're not going to put us to sleep again, old man.
As with Vegeta, their desperation for freedom and autonomy makes them all the more deadly, and also all the more interesting to us. While Krillin, Tien, and Piccolo are trying to open the doors, Vegeta and Trunks arrive. Then, just as Piccolo starts charging a door-busting ki blast, they overhear Gero talking with the androids who have stolen the remote and destroyed it.
What? What have you done? To go out there and exterminate the intruders at once!
A professional soldier's approach, or a rational person's approach to this new information would be to pause and reformulate a plan with one's team. This is what everyone seems to want to do apart from Vegeta, who simply tells his teammates to get out of the way and positions himself to blast the doors. His complete lack of hesitation is really quite astounding and does feel like a step back. Indeed, Vegeta is the only one here not exhibiting an acceptable human reaction. He's no longer the cooperative colleague we saw in his earlier negotiation with Piccolo, nor the winning wildcard he appeared as when Goku lost to 19. Increasing threat levels have provoked him into acting instead like a heartless warrior.
Be quiet!
A killing machine, if you will, who acts for himself alone.
We can't beat the androids without Goku! Stop it!
Notice how the background is all blacked out here, boldly communicating how Trunks' fear spikes as his protests fall on deaf ears. In addition, we have a nice oblique angle which makes everything feel a bit more off and unstable. This is not just a rejection of the team as an amicable unit, but of his son when it matters the most.
You don't understand how powerful they really are!
Too late, kid!
And with that one foolish move, he blasts the doors open, making a clear path for the androids. Then, as they appear from the smoke, Vegeta says,
Well, well, what have we here that has you all so nervous? A boy with long hair and a scarf around his neck, and a beautiful young girl.
This sardonic comment isn't just eye-rolling. It reveals one of Vegeta's biggest obstacles, in terms of both combat and interpersonal relationships. His tendency to judge by appearances. If you think about it, this obsession with appearances extends to himself too, hence the suit emphasizing his physique, his love of theatrics in battle, and his habit for publicly proclaiming his own greatness. All of this isn't much of a surprise considering that keeping up appearances is an important aspect of a prince's role. As a soldier, however, he should know better. Judging someone's strength by their looks can be dangerous, leading him to lull himself into a false sense of security before his target's threat level has been properly established.
I take it these are the scary androids we've heard so much about.
That's them.
The Z-Fighters watch on as 17 and 18 decide to free another android too, Android 16, before killing their maker. At some point during all of this, 18 actually steps on the remote control which represented her enslavement, just as Vegeta stepped on his Frieza Force Scouter back on Namek. A crack appears in Vegeta's warrior mask here, actually, when 17 plunges his hand through Gero. Not long after we're shown everyone else looking scared, then Vegeta being as cool as a cucumber, the show gives Vegeta a horrified reaction shot along with everyone else. Something about this murder actually shakes him. These androids, after all, have a brand of confidence which differs from Vegeta's. It's cold, completely calm, and therefore much more menacing. They don't care for human things like performance or bravado. Crutches which imply the presence of an ego that wants to be seen and a soul which knows what it is to fear and feel vulnerable. 17 does an interesting interpretation of a human beckoning gesture, inviting Krillin to approach him to test his fear. Krillin exhibits a normal human reaction,
No way!
continuing to be the most relatable of the group, which gives Vegeta a chance to get himself together by posing himself as Krillin's antithesis, telling Krillin not to be a coward and calling him pathetic. He then adds,
Now he knows you're scared. Next time he won't show you any mercy at all.
There's that villain insider knowledge Vegeta brings to the group so uniquely. He knows, to a certain extent, how these people tick. And it's hard not to see them as people. This isn't just thanks to that desire for freedom we mentioned before, but their appearance too, which adds a nice layer to that man versus machine theme this arc brings up again and again, asking us what is it to be human or what is it to be humane. At this point, the situation has deteriorated past anything Trunks and the others could have prepared for.
Open the chamber.
If they set that android free, it will be the end of all of us!
And so, in a bold move to prevent the release of Android 16, Trunks decimates the whole lab in a powerful blast. Ever the backseat tactician, Vegeta immediately calls this out as a bad move and asks Trunks why he did it. Trunks replies that it was his most intense blast, but Vegeta has noticed, before anyone else, that the androids have survived unscathed. The only thing Trunks has achieved here, says Vegeta, is showing the androids the limit of his power. This is an especially biting comment coming from Vegeta, considering the importance he places on keeping one's limits and weaknesses a secret. Unfriendly tone notwithstanding,
Bad move!
This feedback on Trunks' tactics and advice to Krillin on not displaying his fear so readily are evidence of Vegeta's more advanced warfare experience compared to the others. But at this point, Vegeta isn't listening to them and they just don't want to learn from him. Indeed, there's a growing instability in the group which has been creeping in for a while now. When Piccolo, Tien, and Krillin arrived at the lab, for example, Piccolo got quite angry at Krillin for not relaying information properly.
You should have told us before, Krillin!
And here, when Trunks performs a huge blast without consulting the others, Krillin tells him to warn them next time, and Vegeta, as we've just seen, isn't happy with his tactics either. All of this builds necessity for Goku excellently, not just as a powerful fighter, but as the social glue that holds the group together. In such an unprecedented situation, Vegeta is too much of a hair trigger to lead properly, and one by one, the others are becoming rather volatile and unpredictable under the burden of having to manage him. This is a major deterioration from back when his status quo disruption led to their success against Android 19. And that's one of the fascinating things about Vegeta as a character, and one of the things that makes him feel so dynamic and real. You never know when he's going to catalyze our heroes' success or their failure. 17 and 18 free Android 16. And while they talk amongst themselves, we learn that Dr. Gero programmed 16 with one objective: find Goku and destroy him. As the androids fly off to do this, Vegeta starts shaking with rage.
I don't care where they went! I'll track them down myself! They're cowards! They left because they were afraid of me! And they should be!
In this ego-driven mindset, he tries to fly off after them. Yet again, the only one to try and stop him is Trunks, and yet again he fails to get through to him. Or rather, Vegeta fails to listen.
Stay here! Don't go after them! We're only strong enough if we all stay together!
Sure, let's wait for Kakarot. I mean, wouldn't it be easier if we all just joined up with the androids instead? Now get out of my way before you get hurt!
And here, our support of Vegeta is tested like never before as he punches Trunks in the gut and flies away. This displays unquestionably that Vegeta has fully regressed from prideful negotiator to lone warrior, propelled by nothing but forward momentum towards the violence he craves. There's a shot of him flying to the androids later in this episode that conveys this really well, in fact. His trajectory brings him straight into the path of a small mountain, and instead of swerving around it, which he is agile enough to do at high speeds, he bulldozes straight through it, a bit like he bulldozes through Trunks. It's the perfect metaphor for the modus operandi he's now resorted to. Forward momentum at the expense of everything else, including his own safety. Back to the Trunks punch, I love the sustained notes in the Falconer score here, melting into an almost Twin Peaks-esque sound which is decidedly mournful and somber.
Now stay out of my way!
What was that all about?
Trunks!
Are you okay?
Please stop him!
The show's emphasis on the shock of this moment is very appropriate, as Vegeta punching his son so easily really is inhumane. It feels even more heinous in a way than his disregard for Bulma's ship being caught in the blast earlier on. Indeed, Trunks is right in front of him here, pleading with him to put his pride aside in a way that not even Bulma would dream of, and Vegeta responds with unblinking cruelty. It's an especially tragic devolution considering the importance Vegeta once claimed to place on birthright. Trunks is heir to the throne, albeit non-existent, that Vegeta supposedly revered. Not to mention, we heard Vegeta being proud of Trunks' strength just 2 episodes before. Where is that family spirit now? Once Trunks catches his breath, he implores Krillin and the others to search for Vegeta, saying that they need to stop him from starting a climactic battle before Goku is ready to help. He's advocating, essentially, for them to somehow restore the wait for the hero shonen narrative structure that Vegeta is intent on subverting. And here we do start to feel Goku's absence in a very palpable way, just as Vegeta's absence was felt before. Krillin even states,
"Darn it! I sure wish Goku was here."
Before they all fly off in pursuit of Vegeta. Vegeta, who has ceased being an asset and instead become another problem that they have to solve, on top of the killer androids.
I hope we can catch up to Vegeta before he runs into those androids, or else he's history.
Father, why wouldn't you listen to me?
It's worth mentioning that we get another very sweet view into Bulma and Baby Trunks' relationship in this episode, highlighting Vegeta's parental failure even more. His failure to fit into human society, I guess, which we see a peaceful microcosm of with Gohan, Bulma, and Uncle Yajirobe.
We know he grows up to be big and strong.
That's right! You're gonna grow up to be a big boy!
How does Vegeta, especially in his current state, fit into this world? And the narrative provokes us to expect this failure to soon transfer over to the battlefield too. Take his rather frenzied speech as he approaches the androids.
Why is everybody making such a big deal about Kakarot? Have they forgotten that I'm a Saiyan too?
I start feeling pretty embarrassed for Vegeta here, as his language and his obsession with Goku reveals the kind of petulance we associate with an insecure teenager, not with a man in his 30s. By portraying his attitude as increasingly ridiculous, the narrative informs us that some divine retribution is in order. In other words, we watch him dig this big hole for himself with the growing feeling that it won't be long before the narrative kicks him down into it so he can learn the hard way. When Vegeta finally catches up to the androids, his conversation with them adds to that feeling of impending doom around his character, as he finally meets his psychological match. After watching him claim to be the most powerful being on the planet, Android 18 tells him plainly,
"You're quite brave for someone all alone."
This is the first astute observation, that he was foolish to enter the fight without appropriate backup. Ironically, being brave for someone all alone has been one of Vegeta's most likable qualities since Namek, but it's not a surefire way to victory. Anyway, in response, Vegeta does his usual theatrics, holding up a fist, then slowly uncurling his fingers, but it has no effect on his opponents. Unlike Vegeta, who is adept at quelling, ignoring, or performing through his fears, these androids are an even further step away from humanity and don't appear to feel fear at all. Indeed, not only do they look pretty relaxed here, but they actually laugh at him.
I'm going to put you back in the crate you crawled out of!
Vegeta, no longer feeling in control, says, "Why are you laughing? This is not a joke." I like the involuntary twitch his face does here. Finally, face to face with opponents who aren't affected by his persona, he may have met his match, and he knows it. Indeed, 17 destabilizes him further by making it clear that he can see through his artifice.
Tell me, are all of you Saiyan so full of yourselves? Is this the way you try to hide your incompetence?
This is the second correct observation they've made about him. And this uncomfortably tight reaction shot from a weird side angle conveys that Vegeta knows 17 has called his bluff. Despite only having just met Vegeta, 17 continues to press all the right buttons, telling him calmly that androids will always be superior to his kind, lumping Vegeta, a Saiyan, in with the Earthlings because they are all flesh and blood. For years, Vegeta has used the idea of objective racial superiority to demean others, and now he's getting a taste of his own medicine. And sure enough, his anger becomes even more volatile.
You take that back! You'll regret saying that! You're just a bunch of toys made by a crazy old man!
I love his monstrous appearance here, which is especially obvious if we compare this visual with a shot from the start of this encounter when his pride was more stable. Notice how his hunched posture removes his neck and makes his shoulders look bulky and shapeless, and he's lost his symmetricality. His face is very pale too, and his temple veins are extra huge. As a result, he's lost the pristine machine-like elegance he had before. Even his yellow Super Saiyan aura isn't framing him neatly here as it is on the shot on the left. These are all excellent visual choices, as he's no longer performing for an audience, he's ranting with the desperation of someone whose self-esteem has been wounded. 18 calmly interjects, telling him he talks too much, to which Vegeta snaps,
"What was that?"
Stellar line delivery there from Sabat. Remember that scene from earlier in which Piccolo posed Vegeta as a worthy comrade due to his psychological impenetrability? Where is that mental strength now? That calm eloquence? We will see Vegeta continue trying to play his usual tricks on the androids during this fight. However, something vitally important has happened in his humanization. He is no longer the anti-human. The androids are. And their cold, calculated approach destabilizes him mentally just as he once intimidated the Z-Fighters. This means he's closer to being one of them than ever before. In fact, Vegeta makes several comments on the androids' lifelessness, asking if they've run out of gas and calling 17 nothing but a machine made of tin.
Okay, which one of you do I send to the scrap heap first?
18 tells 17 to destroy Vegeta, but he refuses, so 18 steps in, and Vegeta, assuming probably that she's the weakest as she looks like a human woman, happily accepts.
So it's ladies first, is it? That's fine with me.
There's that assumptions based on appearances flaw we noticed before. As Vegeta accepts the battle, we get one of his famous hand flourishes, with his glove as the focal point, which we've established as a symbol of his clean, accomplished battle persona. His words and body language here illustrate something important, something that keeps us rooting for Vegeta despite his immaturity. How quickly he can recompose himself after acute distress. Despite his shaken self-esteem, he's managed to enter the battle with the appearance of control, and recommence his usual intimidation routine. And while he has underestimated Android 18, it's not just a simple case of him misjudging the situation. Having put too much emphasis on appearances, followed his rage, and got himself in danger, he knows there's no backing out now. This tenacity over panic is not without merit. But will it be enough? At the start of the fight, Vegeta seems to be in with a chance. He's not running rings around her, but he's also not losing.
Vegeta is much stronger than we originally thought.
After dodging a heavy punch, he manages to throw 18 into the rocky wall he's standing against. And here she says,
"For your sake, I hope you can do better than that. I may have to increase my strength to full power."
This is a very Vegeta-like bluff. Inside, she's aware that this fight will be harder than she thought, but she doesn't let it show. In fact, she claims the opposite is true. Then, when he goes on to make fun of her, threatening to turn her into a toaster, she thinks to herself that he's getting on her nerves, but doesn't say so out loud. Vegeta flies over some picturesque countryside in pursuit of 18, who dodges his ki blasts with ease, until they reach a motorway. And here they spend about a minute standing on the back of this lorry, or truck for my American friends, where they almost look like mirror images of one another. Notice the navy blue clothing and similar height, and even their matching blonde hair. In fact, the wind hurtling past them is making 18's hair stand on end, mimicking Vegeta's. These details and the overall composition here seems to be asking us to pause and compare these two characters before the violence ramps up. And if we step back, there are some overt parallels in their humanization journeys. Self-liberation from slavery, reliance on violence, and finally redemption through integration and love. And isn't it interesting that after presenting himself as a killing machine for so long, Vegeta has finally met one, and he hates her. Vegeta is the first to break the silence on the lorry.
What's wrong? Battery's getting low?
And the first to attack, successfully sending 18 flying into the windshield of the car behind them. Things seem to be going well for him, and we have to ask ourselves whether he'll actually get the humbling he deserves after all.
Be good and be still. I'm going to wipe that smirk off your pretty little face of yours.
Even when his big blast attack misses her by 10 degrees and she makes fun of him,
"What's the matter? Did you have something in your eye?"
his performance doesn't falter.
"Face it, I'm a lot stronger than you'll ever be."
I doubt it.
However, as we know, Vegeta is not a machine, but a man in a mask. And masks have a habit of slipping. Indeed, 18 flies over to him suddenly without warning, and we see fear flash across his face. Although Vegeta manages to stay standing, the collision leaves him with a considerable graze on his forehead. And a graze is all it looks like, until this extreme close-up of his face reveals that blood has sprung from the wound to drip directly into his eye. Thus, we are reminded, in a small but striking way, that Vegeta is flesh and blood, that his physical vulnerability remains an inescapable reality despite his showboating. Now, the human reaction to this would be to try and wipe the blood out of one's eye, but instead, he allows it to fill his vision, as shown in this very expressive POV shot, which I just love. Then he just blinks it away. This isn't just his persona holding fast, but clever battle tactics. Using a hand to wipe his face would mean having one less hand ready to defend himself with, and he's going to need it. Vegeta tries to retaliate with a punch to 18's stomach, but she returns the gesture at the moment of impact, causing blood to spray out of Vegeta's mouth. About 15 seconds pass between the punch and the blood spurt, successfully building our concern for Vegeta's survival. Then we have the famous shot of her slamming him headfirst into the mountain using just the heel of her hand.
"Tell me, Vegeta, I'm curious. What is it like to feel this kind of pain?"
Going back to their parallels for a second, notice how she shows interest in his experience of pain, just as he showed interest in the android's experience of fear. They both explore this curiosity in a sadistic way while making fun of their opponents, but it is curiosity nonetheless, which is a trait we associate with living beings, not machines. Now that our sympathy for Vegeta has been provoked just enough for us to almost forget what a dick he's been, Trunks and the others arrive.
You're all right!
As usual, the narrative has held off on the arrival of backup for the perfect amount of time, which is something the Android Saga is really good at. The narrative isn't through with its intervention of Vegeta's bad behavior, however, and 17 successfully threatens the Z-Fighters into not interfering with the battle.
I'm willing to stand aside and let you fight, but if any one of these friends of yours tries to assist you in any way, well, I'll be forced to step in.
Bring it on!
Vegeta manages to launch 18 across the river next to the road that they're on, then moves to finish the fight with another Big Bang attack. This one appears to meet its target, and Vegeta gloats about managing to rough her up, to which she tells him that looks can be deceiving. Again, one of the key lessons Vegeta has to learn here. She then tells him,
You fight quite well for being such a little man. It's impressive, even if you are a Saiyan.
Which is yet another drawback which ironically makes him a more exciting hero. In fact, Vegeta takes it as a straight-up compliment rather than the underhanded remark that it is.
I know. There are very few willing to train as intensely as I did to achieve this kind of power.
Lines like this, and scenes like the earlier training montage, remind us of the sheer graft Vegeta has had to commit to in order to become as strong as he is, helping to protagonize him even when he's behaved reprehensibly. The Z-Fighters' vocal support of him as the fight continues helps to justify our support of him further.
Vegeta's on the attack. That's it. Go get her!
Trunks, in particular, is blown away.
It's amazing. I never knew my father was so strong.
This brings to mind an aspect of his dynamic with Vegeta that I find rather fascinating. Just as Vegeta's pride of Trunks becoming a Super Saiyan acts as a tenuous hope for their relationship's development, Vegeta's power allows Trunks to think positively about him despite his fatherly failings. This maybe doesn't make sense by human standards, but from what we know of Saiyan culture, this is a perfectly legitimate basis for a bond. Indeed, when the tide turns and it looks like 18 will win after all, Trunks shouts,
No! Stop!
With the real worry of a boy who loves his father. They all look on as 18 lands powerful hits on Vegeta again and again, and it dawns on Vegeta that she's been holding back all this time. Then we have the climactic, humiliating blow as she breaks his arm, prompting another distressed cry from Trunks. And at this point, Vegeta is forced to give up the facade, signified visually by the glove motif yet again, in this shot emphasizing his limp forearm. Groaning in genuine human pain, he walks away from his attacker, struggles in silence for maybe 15 seconds as he tries to hold it all in, then does something we've never seen him do before. He wails. A wail is different to a shout or a scream. It has a sense of abandon, a complete letting go of artifice to make way for one's animal side to feel. So well done to Sabat for his visceral performance here, because it really, really does land. Android 18 has succeeded at last in provoking the true pain she sought to see from him, just as Vegeta succeeded in his experiment with 19. This isn't just a defeat. It's a defeat with an audience. But the shame he thought he was avoiding through success is nowhere to be found. His allies aren't looking down on him, they're worried for him, and Trunks' instinct to protect his dad is so strong that he flies into the danger zone to save him.
Father!
Trunks hurtles towards 18 to cut her down with his sword, but it shatters down one side upon making contact with her arm. The fact that Trunks rushes in for an unplanned singular blow here, going against his strict plan not to take the androids on without Goku under any circumstances, illustrates how much he truly cares about Vegeta. Indeed, Vegeta is now tangled in something very human, a bond governed by biology and emotion rather than logic. Trunks' attempt is unsuccessful, and he is batted out of the sky like a volleyball. At this point, Tien and Piccolo move in to help, leaving Krillin standing alone. Props to Krillin for sticking to the whole wait for Goku plan longer than anyone else. Anyway, Android 17 deals swiftly with Tien and Piccolo while Vegeta watches on. While Piccolo is simply batted out of the sky, Tien ends up being actively strangled in midair. And something interesting happens here in terms of Vegeta's instincts. Vegeta knows that while the others can handle themselves in this scenario, Tien being strangled means he may just lose a teammate. And so, despite claiming again and again not to be interested in teamwork, and despite being injured, he tries to fly to Tien's aid.
Android!
This signals a positive shift in his attitude, a progression away from battle via performance. It's not a calculated move by any means, as his exhaustion and broken arm mean his chance of success is minimal. And Tien is not a fighter whose strength can sway this battle, so he's not saving him for tactical reasons either. Not to mention, considering Tien's negative attitude towards Vegeta, it's not an ego-driven move. He puts himself in danger due to the genuine desire to save another person. Thus, he is now involved in a classic shonen scramble whereby the team moves via impulse and emotion, prioritizing saving each other over personal survival or overall victory. 18 grabs Vegeta's ankle before he can get to Tien, at which point Trunks gets up and tries to save his father. Emphasizing yet again his growing heroic impulse, Vegeta shouts, "No, don't!" out of fear for Trunks' safety. And 18 uses Vegeta as a bat to swat Trunks away, sending them both flying. As a side note, it's amazing that even after all of this, Vegeta stays in Super Saiyan form and just lies there glowing. His theatrics and self-imposed outsider role may have fallen by the wayside, but his fighting spirit, the thing that makes him such an electrifying hero, has not left him. And this is confirmed with a panning shot down to his angry face, revealing his continued conviction. Without any of the quips or hand gestures which characterize the start of this fight, he hits 18 with a surprise blast. And while she does dodge it, I can't help but wonder if approaching the battle in this more optimized manner from the start might have got him closer to an actual win. 18 continues to beat Vegeta up, for lack of a better phrase, even stepping on his lower back, at which he emits another wail. As 18 says to herself here though, he doesn't know when to quit, and she has to push him down again, this time stepping on his arm. Even Vegeta's wails start to lose their potency here, and sure enough, his hair finally fades to black. While in Vegeta's mind, this defeat is probably an abject failure, that's not how it feels for the viewer. Those who were waiting for the narrative to intervene and give him his just desserts will be satisfied at his humiliation. And those of us who were rooting for his redemption can feel relieved that by the end there, he was not only looking out for others, but concentrating on the fight rather than his performance. In short, we saw a glimpse of him fighting in the style of a veritable Z-fighter. That idea of Vegeta being one of them more than ever thanks to the android's arrival feels all the more true in this series of shots showing them all lying immobile on the hard ground. Funnily enough, thanks to his human weakness, his fear, Krillin is the only one left. But luckily for him, 17 and 18 don't see him as enough of a threat and head off to find Goku. Krillin does summon the courage to chase the androids at the last second, leading to an interesting scene about agency. 17 explains that they have to kill Goku as it's what they've been ordered to do, to which Krillin says, "Did you forget? Dr. Gero's dead." Android 17 replies that he hasn't forgotten about that, but their orders have transformed into something more.
But this, friend, is a game.
What?
And finding Goku is a part of the game. That's why we did not ask you where he is.
As we established in previous videos, it's hard to let go of a life of violence if it's in one's programming, even after one's freedom has been gained. This pitfall the androids happily submit to is, paradoxically, quite human of them, and an effective mirror for Vegeta's journey. Adding to this subtle humanization, we then see 18 giving Krillin a kiss before departing.
Good luck. Bye.
Which is a real standout moment for her characterization. The kiss is neither part of her programming nor part of the game. It's a moment of whimsy and complete agency. As the androids fly away, Krillin returns to his team to check on them all and hand out some senzu beans. Seeing that Vegeta is the only one still unconscious, he looks down at the beans in his hand and decides to give him 2.
Vegeta looks like he's in pretty rough shape. I guess I need to give Vegeta a couple of beans.
This is a nice little touch which confirms Vegeta's reintegration into the group, as they only have a limited supply. Moreover, once he's recovered, Vegeta doesn't just fly away and immediately recommence his lone warrior routine. He remains within the group, standing off to the side as we often see Piccolo doing. And speaking of Piccolo, he actively advocates for Vegeta in this scene, further strengthening Vegeta's redemptive reintegration. When Tien claims that they're only in this mess because of Vegeta, Piccolo says,
"Hey, don't blame him. We all underestimated their strength, which was a mistake. But we can't afford to make any more. The androids may not be so forgiving next time."
This is the kind of mature, balanced stance we expect from a strategist like Piccolo. Unlike Tien, he's less prone to that human tendency towards moral outrage. Instead, he maintains a balanced viewpoint of the situation and has more moral flexibility. In Piccolo's eyes, their defeat is shared by all, and so they must rectify it together too. Vegeta has not recovered from his ego being shattered, however, and as such, being ushered into the group's sympathies actually hurts him more. He doesn't actually say anything to the others before leaving, and his silence, along with the actual wince we see from him here, tells us that he's finally not angry at any of the Z-Fighters except himself. Notice how he isn't shown from the front even once during this scene, as if he's trying to hide his pain from us. This is all a necessary part of his redemption, of the healing process. Now that he is no longer turning his anger destructively outwards, he directs it inwards as he confronts his own failings properly for the first time. And if anyone there knows what this is like, it's Piccolo. Indeed, when Trunks moves to follow Vegeta, Piccolo tells him to leave him alone, then explains,
"Ever since Vegeta became a Super Saiyan, his ego has been out of control. Honestly, I think what that android hurt the most today was his pride."
This benevolent attitude towards Vegeta's pain is pivotal as it opens the door to Tien's sympathies too.
I know how he feels. We worked so hard, but they were still stronger than all of us put together.
This is very meaningful coming from Tien, who alludes here to Vegeta being as much a valued part of the group as any of them, someone whose pain he can share. And pain is very often a great unifier when it comes to relating to other people, in human society at least. For a Saiyan, this is a little harder to comprehend. This is one of those scenes which really reminds me what a cool character Piccolo is. Not only is he tough and strategic like Vegeta, but he has that social glue quality at times which we usually associate with more sociable characters like Goku or Krillin, communicating to us yet again that there is more than one path to goodness, and by association, greatness. As the conversation continues, we see micro versions of Vegeta's shame and anger from Krillin and Trunks, as they reflect on how weak they were compared to the androids.
No, Tien. I'm sorry. I should have been fighting right alongside with you guys, but I was just too scared.
You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. But those androids tossed you aside as though you were nothing.
Tien kind of panics, actually, claiming that they might be done for even with Goku's help, and Trunks reveals that these androids are stronger than the ones he fought in his timeline. In addition, when Krillin asks Piccolo what he's planning to do next, Piccolo actually snaps at him before storming off.
"Stop asking questions! It's none of your concern! This is something that I have to do alone! I'm leaving, and anyone who tries to follow me will be sorry!"
This is an overt, deliberate mirror of Vegeta's dramatic exit from moments before, which successfully encourages our sympathy for him even further.
It doesn't make sense. Last I heard, Piccolo was fighting on our side.
Indeed, Krillin immediately shows understanding of Piccolo's outburst, just as Piccolo did for Vegeta.
Don't worry, Tien. Piccolo just has a lot on his mind. He's still one of the good guys.
He argues that this is one fight they cannot afford to lose, suggesting desperation and emotional stress as justifiable excuses for angry outbursts in human society. Indeed, through lines like, "Don't worry, he's still one of the good guys," and "Piccolo's only doing what he has to do to win," the show asks us to have patience with Vegeta's more destructive traits, especially now that we've witnessed some burgeoning self-awareness from him. While the group discusses Piccolo, who has headed off to fuse with Kami, Trunks asks about his father.
We can't forget about him!
And Tien reassures him that Vegeta isn't gone for good.
I'm sure he'll be back once he cools off a bit. He just needs some time to work some things out for himself. Then I'm sure he'll be back stronger than he ever was.
Yeah!
This reassurance of Vegeta's inevitable resurgence and increased strength, along with the smiles it prompts from Krillin and Trunks, reminds me an awful lot of the way the group talks about Goku. After all, Goku is often a distant figure, only his distance is geographical, while Vegeta's is emotional. And while they wait around for him, the Z-Fighters console themselves with the idea that he'll be back as the vital missing piece. This treatment of Vegeta as a hero to await solidifies his status as someone worthy and capable of redemption all the more. However, he still has plenty of work to do.
I'll show those androids no one makes a fool of me!
After another angry rant,
they'll pay for this!
The subsequent episode depicts Vegeta standing alone atop a dramatic rock formation. Notice how tiny he looks here, surrounded by the empty space of the sky. His angry rants aren't bringing him the payoff he's used to anymore, and so we see him actively grappling with himself here as we cut to his face, which is stained with blood. There's a desperate look on his face as he wipes the blood away rather rigidly, like someone who isn't used to or can't accept this kind of injury. Then, staring at his fist, he starts to groan through gritted teeth and transforms, releasing enough ki to destroy the rocks around him. He releases here what almost looks like a suicidal blast, directing his energy not towards a specific target, but detonating himself. It's not actually enough to do him serious harm, but it's telling, I think, that he chooses himself as the target. This is followed by more ranting about the androids and needing to prove he's the strongest in the universe.
It is my destiny!
Both this rant and the one from earlier include those extreme eye close-ups which have become a key part of the visual language the show uses for Vegeta. They say the eyes are the window to the soul, and we're forced to look into Vegeta's a great deal. And it's appropriate considering that he is arguably the show's emotional center. Undulating, volatile, and alive. We've seen so many ups and downs from him now, in fact, that even in these moments which appear on the surface to be mere anger and egotism, we can look at his eyes and know that there is much more going on underneath the surface. As the saga draws to a close, Goku is still sick, so no change there, and Vegeta's emotional turmoil continues. But when it comes to this character, turmoil is actually not a step back, but a step forward. It means he's allowing himself to feel something more complex than brutish bloodlust or pride for more than 5 minutes. This is displayed excellently in his last scene of the saga, the famous moment of him standing alone under torrential rain. And that's the reality of Vegeta's emotional work at this moment. Social acceptance gives him permission to do it, and public humiliation gives him the reason. But the self-reflection side of things has to happen alone. And so he spends the end of the saga with nothing but his own company and the elements. Which is similar, if you think about it, to the situation that allowed him to become a Super Saiyan. The scene opens with the camera panning down from a stormy night sky to give us a rather unusual angle of Vegeta's face. It's a clever angle because it's not only dramatic, but ambiguous too. We can tell that his eyes are shut, but his expression is unclear. His teeth are no longer clenched, and are those tear tracks on his cheeks, or just the sheen of the rain? He's shown from a series of different distances as Android 18's taunts race through his mind.
What is it like to feel this kind of pain? What is it like to you up off the highway? To work so hard, so little.
And I'm always struck by how pretty this scene is. The way the raindrops dance off his face and lend him a kind of ethereal glow. Moreover, thanks to the storm, the predominant colour in the background is that velvety blue, which is arguably his signature colour. This works extremely well as a backdrop for Vegeta here, as it's a colour which connotes not just sadness and depression and the loneliness of nighttime, but royalty and dignity too. In fact, the name of this kind of blue is literally royal blue. All in all, the show presents him here in his downtrodden state, nevertheless more dignified than pitiful, at least for these few silent moments. In aestheticizing his anguish like this, the show reminds us that success and goodness are not the only beautiful experiences life has to offer. There is a poetic beauty in struggle too. Why else would we make so much art about it? Indeed, this is where we see Vegeta achieve his biggest and most cathartic emotional release yet, emitting a yell that literally splits the sky. This is a nicely executed metaphorical moment for Vegeta breaking through the heavy clouds in his mind to receive some much-needed clarity. We see the light hitting his face in 8 protracted seconds of silence, connoting even further this sense of epiphany. And again, we're being asked to consider the beauty in what is otherwise quite an ugly period of Vegeta's life. At first, he says nothing. He just stands there breathing heavily with his face and chest turned towards the sky, suggesting that this brief moment of submission he just experienced granted him some relief from his rigid persona. Then he starts talking to himself out loud in a mixture of anger, old paradigms, and also some more emotionally sophisticated stuff. I'm going to play a truncated version of the clip, and I want you to notice not just what he's saying, but how visually dynamic it is, the wide array of camera angles and perspectives, helping to convey that this isn't the speech of a one-dimensional side character, but a hero's soliloquy.
No! The Super Saiyans of legend were an invincible warrior race. I am their son. All my life I have worked towards this goal, and for what? To be brushed aside as easily as a common housefly by an android?
There's the tipping point where he invites the audience into his personal shame.
A true Super Saiyan would not have fallen. Maybe I'm not who I think I am. Perhaps there are still new plateaus for me to reach, far greater heights to which I must ascend. Yes! And I will be legendary.
Maybe I'm not who I think I am. That's the key phrase here, as it indicates a quotidian crisis which invites our sympathies, while nevertheless sandwiched between proud Saiyan rhetoric.
And then, Kakarot, then I will see you bow before your prince.
It's a humble realization, and an inescapably human one too. Also, pivotally, after posing the question of his identity, he doesn't rush to answer it.
Maybe I'm not who I think I am.
He lets several seconds pass before allowing his under-exercised introspective side to answer with the most comforting hypothetical it can. That he simply hasn't reached his potential yet, and he hasn't bested Goku, but someday will. This curiosity over his own identity, rather than outright rejection of self-doubt, is huge. It shows us that Vegeta no longer sees himself as the polished and perfected finished product he presented himself as, but rather a great man in the making, someone who will earn his birthright he once claimed belonged to him from the start. Ultimately, this speech displays the same old Vegeta with the same core beliefs, but now improved with some added human nuance. Radical self-doubt and existential curiosity have been woven into his warrior blueprint, an undeniable leap forward in his humanization. And that is where the saga leaves him, which means our analysis is now complete. And what a dramatic journey it's been, from distance and disruption, glory, familial abandonment, to defeat, acceptance, epiphany, and emotional release. In the comments of a previous video, someone described the circumstances Vegeta is evolving under as a crucible of change, a terribly appropriate metaphor. A crucible heats things at such high temperatures that they are refined into something new entirely, yet born from the crude materials they entered as. No one wants to be in a crucible. We might kick and scream and lash out in all kinds of ways, but the end result is something new, something better. One might argue that Vegeta's whole life following his father's death has been a slow-burning crucible, or one crucible after another that he's managed to scramble out of before he could be melted down and stripped of what he thought made him special. Again, no one wants to be in a crucible, but sometimes life closes the lid and you're left in there to change whether you like it or not. For a character this fiercely rigid, it's sometimes brief moments that signal that change. In accepting he wasn't as great as he thought, in trying to save someone who hated him, in giving in to wailing in pain before those he sought so strongly to perform for, Vegeta shows actual courage which will make him stronger in the long run. Not to mention, we've been given some hope for his relationship with Trunks in the form of mutual appreciation of each other's power, the currency Vegeta holds closest to his heart. I said at the start of this video essay that this series is an exercise in empathy, and that's what the Z-Fighters can offer Vegeta. Their forgiving ethos, championed by Goku, gives Vegeta the space to step forwards and stagger backwards without being rejected by the collective. And this could be a collective whose support he can learn to accept, for perhaps after fighting actual killing machines, Vegeta will look less harshly upon the idea of being seen as flesh and blood. It's certainly triggered an unusual introspection from him, but we shall see. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me on this journey so far. If you liked this analysis, please let me know down in the comments, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, as Vegeta's story is far from over. Also, if you'd like to support the channel further, my Ko-fi is linked in the description. I'll see you guys in the next one, but for now, I hope you all have a lovely day, and do take care of yourselves. Ciao!